I'm really excited to introduce you to our first panel. So our first panel will be about discussing really about setting the scene and hearing firsthand about some of the impact that a variety of business owners have had when dealing in the wake of COVID. And so I'm excited about our panelists who will share their experiences and their lessons that they've learned really about the viability of their company and their businesses during COVID. So on this panel, we'll have Lori Sales. So Lori is the president and CEO of Stability Management Solutions. They provide professional consulting services in the federal, state, and county and government, as well as Black women veteran-owned small business. Also on this panel, we'll have Shaun C Robinson, who is an award-winning entrepreneur, consultant, and investor that has visited over 50 countries, and he's passionate about teaching his philosophy of creating leaders, designing a lifestyle that you're excited about, and building a powerful legacy. And one of the things I also want to mention about Shaun is that he was one of the first youngest African-American franchise system owners in the US. We also have the amazing Linwood Jolly. He's an organizational leader with 30 years of experience building businesses that focus on federal, state, and local and Fortune 500 clients. He's an information technology innovator with a passion for small businesses. And then we also have the amazing Luke Brammy. He has served as principal of Gelberg Signs since he and his brothers purchased the company in Washington, D.C. in 1989. And the company has been in D.C. since 1941. His role in the company is development of new business to the commercial and government sector. So these group of amazing speakers will be focusing on how their business was impacted by COVID. But before we jump into that, one of the things I wanted to highlight was some of our survey data. So as part of our market research, we asked a question, how has COVID-19 affected your business? And what we found was that 70.1% of respondents said that their business was either severely affected, majorly affected, or negatively affected due to COVID. And so with that in mind, what we wanted to do is to talk about how these business owners were able to adjust during this time and what lessons that they've learned. So the question that we're going to ask this roundtable is, what did COVID-19 teach you about your business? And we'll start with Lori.
Hi, hello everybody. Thank you for having me. I tell you, yes, the COVID-19 is something that we all want to talk about, right? You did an introduction to me, so I don't need to get into that. But I can tell you the number one thing I'm going to say that has been our value is that we are working with the government. Even though a lot of other commercial companies were affected, the government is still spending money. The government is still doing what they do. And so that is how I know we have had our growth during the COVID-19 because we have grown almost, good 30% as far as employees at this time. So one thing that I know that we did really, really well, and so most of my things I'm going to be sharing, basically we did well, and it's come out to show me now that we did some things early in the game that were valuable to us during COVID-19 once it came, is that I allowed our employees to telework from home as needed. If they had a doctor's appointment, do anything with their parents, then they could stay home for the rest of the day and telework. So when COVID-19 hit, everyone was already established with the correct internet services, printers and things that they needed, a phone, in order to still be able to operate efficiently and effectively every single day. The other thing that I wanted to get out would be that the tip would be, make sure you get your satellite office ready and make sure it stays ready because we don't know how long we'll be in this, right? Networking before COVID-19. I was always out and about, pounding and hitting doors and shaking hands and smiling and attending every event that I registered for, key, attend what you register for. Don't just register and then never show up. And then hanging out until the end so that I can meet people that were there talking and or the facilitators. So I formed really, really great relationships. So when COVID-19 came, those relationships had already been established. So I was able to maintain and contacting people and shaking hands via email and or Zoom. Now we do the Zoom, a Microsoft team or whatever is necessary. My tip on that is that even though we're not able to do a lot of face-to-face, still register and attend. Don't just wait for the recording to come. Like this event today, hopefully you people are here live with us and enjoying it, because this is where the real networking takes place, where you can engage with someone in the chat room, get a phone number from somebody that you can ultimately be doing business with. And new offerings, of course, that became somewhat available to many people. We got some new offerings based off the networking that I had done. And so people contacted us, Lori, are you interested in offering PP items? Are you interested in doing some other medical, I want to call it instrument, in order to help people inside the VA survive and live longer? And of course, I was very interested in all those things. And so nothing's been solidified, but we are still continuing to communicate and talk. I have solidified my PPE supplier, though, at least, so that I'm able to make those offerings now to the federal government. And then the last part would be financial reporting. I was so saddened to realize that how many companies were not ready for the financial reporting requirements when PPP and IDO made their requests. So my biggest tip, and the biggest tip I think of the day, is that if you're not already set up with your financial reporting, some type of financial software program, go out there and make that happen as soon as possible, because that's what the banks want. I'm in government contracting. It's kind of like a requirement, but it is definitely something that made a big difference for us when the PPP and the IDO came out for the small businesses. I had everything I needed in a system that I was able to pull out and provide to them. So those are the things that we actually experienced here in Civilian Management Solutions. So we made it and stormed through the weather pretty well because of some of the things we had did prior. And so if you're not set up in any of those areas, I highly recommend that you do, so that you can continue to grow and survive during this season. And thank you again for the honor to be able to speak and share.
So, hi, Shaun Robinson, President and CEO of Strong College Students Moving. Now, Strong College Students is a home and office moving company. We employ a college student workforce from local universities, and we move business and families locally and long distance. And I guess the question here is, how did COVID impact my business? Now, the challenge is that Strong College Students has kind of two different facing sides. So there's our consumer facing side, where we actually work with customers, and that's really the moving side of the business. We're actually interacting with either home or office customers. And then the other side of the business is really the franchise side of the business. So I'll probably start first on the core customer side of the business and kind of discuss like how that was impacted. So one of the biggest challenges we probably faced is that first we were declared a essential business, which essentially meant we could stay open, we could stay operational, our offices are still open. So that was really essentially a benefit for us because we weren't forced to close. However, with the economy kind of just coming down to a complete halt and to a complete shutdown and to a complete stop, that did definitely dramatically impact our overall business model. So what I had to kind of recognize was that our core products, which are on the home moving side and the office moving side, were directly impacted. What we tended to see and find was that on the home side, there were customers who were saying, hey, we're already booked, we're already scheduled, we want to continue to move forward. So there's still that great opportunity to have revenue kind of flowing in, which was always really helpful and beneficial. On our commercial side, that kind of just came to like a grinding halt. And that's a good chunk of the business there, and that's across a franchise system for multiple offices. So at that point, that's where I recognized that we had another element and another derivative of our business, which is our dorm room boxes program. And our dorm room boxes essentially is a shipping service that we provide for college students. So we'll actually ship boxes to their dorm room, they'll pack up their dorms, and then we'll actually go and pick those items up and then store them over the summer and then redeliver in the new semester. So when everything kind of came to a grinding halt, that really dramatically impacted that side of the business. And where our business is pretty cyclical, where it's cyclical and seasonal. So there's just certain seasons that are like kind of our boom seasons and kind of our slower seasons. So when things kind of when things kind of just started to take off, we were probably at the beginning at that surge for the start and that ramp up of our core our core seasons for business. And that first wave of revenue really comes from that student sector. And what we found was that campuses were closed nationwide. Students didn't know if they're going back to campus or not back to campus. And it was interesting because when we began to kind of reach out to campuses, we recognized that certain campuses actually had protocols and programs in place to where they already had established vendors they wanted to utilize. They knew what their protocols were going to be. They were closing their campuses for the remainder of the schools for the remainder of the school year. And other campuses didn't have a program. So what we recognized was like, okay, there's this massive opportunity to drive in new business that we weren't anticipating, but we will have to kind of make some modifications. So I actually made the decision to go ahead and like actually hire more people. It was a little bit of a risk on my part to actually go out there and actually hire more people, get more staff on board, because the most important part for us was that there was this massive opportunity in the marketplace, and we had a relatively small team who would normally handle that amount of kind of reach out and communication with offices, with university offices. But we had to really ramp that team up in order to actually kind of tackle the opportunity within the market. So as we saw, our residential sector was kind of I would say was relatively stagnant. Our commercial sector just fell right off a cliff. So what we were able to do was seek the opportunity that came forward, which was in the working with our dorm room boxes program. So we hired more staff. We were just on the phones, pounding, just making calls. And what we ended up recognizing was that our traditional program is to just ship boxes to campuses. The students pack up their boxes. We send crews across the country to go pick those boxes up. It goes to one of our regional storage facilities. It's stored over the summer and then redelivered in the fall. But what we recognized was that the universities needed a new solution. They needed actually someone to come onto campus, to go into the students' dorm rooms and actually pack up those items for them. So it was a program that we didn't traditionally offer, but we recognized the opportunity to really increase revenue and to also kind of provide that service that was needed for some of our campus partners. So we ended up revamping our entire website. We actually had already made some investments in technology to allow us to actually allow for online bookings. And these are things we did probably about 2 years ago, and we had made some modifications each year to make improvements to that system. So those digital software improvements that we had made were really powerful and really helpful, because when it came to actually pitching these opportunities, we already had a resource that was available. There were some small tweaks we had to do here and there. So once we were out there hiring, bringing developers on board to kind of make those modifications that we had needed. And we already had a development team that we were working with, so we were happy with them. So we were really kind of just making investments in those systems to recognize that there's this massive opportunity in the market. And it was a big risk, but it did pay off. There were some contracts that we secured. There were some contracts that we didn't secure. I'm a little unhappy about those. But overall, definitely happy that we did secure contracts across the country. And it really turned into an opportunity for the business. Now on the franchise side, what I recognized was that a few of the benefits for our franchise system right now is that we've already really designed a remote apparatus within the business model. It's probably just because like my passion for travel, and really my passion for just being able to run the business from anywhere. So from living in Miami to living in Silicon Valley, to even being abroad, I've really designed the business around my lifestyle, which meant that we had the capability of taking phone calls anywhere remotely. We had the capability of booking customers anywhere remotely. We could really manage crews. With our business, once the crews are kind of in the truck and they're headed out to the customer, they're really pretty autonomous and independent for the day. So as long as they have the information and the resources they need at their fingertips, and that's really through just smartphones, smart devices, and with the fact that our average employee is between 18 and 22, they already have one of these smartphones, and they're all constantly on it. So we really kind of built our systems around that, and by doing so. It really just helped us kind of blossom and take off the opportunity to make sure we could really be remote, service our teams, service our customers, and didn't really have to have too much of a change in the business model. So our franchisees got the benefit of that system that we had already built, and they were able to actually utilize that as well. But one of the things I did recognize is that I saw an area of opportunity in the marketing for how our franchise is offered. COVID really highlighted some areas that I hadn't recognized before that were really valuable. So right now, our team's actually revamping our entire pitch to how we see the benefits of our franchise system, to how we see the fact that this is a recession-resistant business and that there's opportunities for growth even in downturns, and the fact that we have the ability to kind of develop and create new business models and new revenue streams to augment existing revenue streams. So it's been a really interesting how many months has it been now? I guess 6 months. It's been a really interesting, 6 months so far, because it's really helped us highlight benefits and things that we did right within the business, as well as just some areas and some fallacies where we're like, well, hey, there's chances and opportunities here for further growth. There's opportunities to really improve and kind of really redesign our franchise system. So I could probably go on and on talking about it. I kind of get passionate about it, but I know we've got a limited time here. So hopefully that answers the question. Hopefully that provides value for everybody who's out there. And I think, Laura, you brought up a great point about networking as well. So when it came to networking, we had to kind of just revamp how we networked as well. It was really just getting on that phone, making those phone calls, and just wait, just continue to call to kind of hear that yes eventually.
Great, thank you very much, Shaun. And so I noticed that some people are having some issues with the Q&A, so we're troubleshooting that. But if you can drop your questions in chat, we'll take it there while we figure out how we can get this thing working. But thank you so much, Shaun, for your insight. So we'll kick it over to Linwood.
All righty.
All right, great. You're on.
Hi. So thank you for having me. So the question is, how did COVID impact our business?
What did COVID teach you about your business?
COVID teach you? So let me just give you sort of a background. So CODIS, the company that I'm currently with, we're about 125 W-2 employees. And our goal for 2020 to 2021, about second quarter, was to double the size of the company. And I'm just giving you that as sort of background so you understand how hard we were working and what we're working toward when this happened. I've run 2 companies prior. I've had an 8A company that I grew and I sold it to Lockheed in 2014. And I figured this is my last go around. We're gonna build CODIS up, and I'm going home. COVID hit, and it tested every aspect of our business plan, and particularly in my job, I'm the VP for Business Development and Capture, which is my most favorite role. I don't ever want to be a president and CEO again. It tested what I thought and I believe was a solid pipeline and capture strategy. So COVID comes and everything shuts down. What do you do when everything shuts down? Somebody said, what happens when never happens? That was COVID. For us, immediately we sent everybody home. We had already been working on a business model where we knew that innovation required us to provide our clients with mobility. And if we were going to provide that type of innovation, then we had to have it ourselves. So we had the ability to work from home. We had just never tested it with everybody at one time. So immediately everybody went home. We closed our office. The week before COVID hit, we just signed a contract for, I think it was 6,000 new square feet of an office that we just built at 1101 Vermont Avenue, which we have never gone into. Completely furnished, ready to go. COVID hit, we've never gone in there. I've just kind of gone to visit it once in a blue moon. So what happens when everything is shut down and everybody is home? Well, our clients are federal, state, and local. And let me break it out a little for you. At the state and local level, a lot of people at the state and local level are busy figuring out what they're going to do, just like all of us business owners are figuring out what we're going to do. So we weren't getting a lot of phone calls answered. At the federal level, the same way. What I noticed was that a lot of our small business contacts in either federal, state, local, they were busy. A lot of them had been moved into other areas supporting a lot of the federal programs that provided payday protection programs, et cetera, like that. So a lot of them were refocused on helping small businesses get federal funding that was available vis-a-vis a grant or payday protection program or what have you, but they weren't focused on the solicitations that we had been chasing. Our pipeline actually proved to us that when we built this pipeline about 18 months ago, because we track opportunities 18 months, sometimes a year in advance, what it proved to us was that we were doing the right thing. We were looking at opportunities that provided the type of innovation that we saw where we wanted to move our company. We were moving away from the traditional sort of help desk call center, sort of technical staffing. Not that that's a bad business. I've been in those businesses before. They're very good. But we were moving toward innovation that allowed the federal government, state and local governments to return. We wanted to return FTE hours to them so that they could reallocate those hours. So our innovation allowed the government, state and local, to reallocate a lot of FTE hours, which, as you know, under COVID are very tough now because a lot of organizations have even reprogrammed federal, state, and local workers to work on the COVID effort. So we're home and we're trying to run a business. Well, I immediately talked to my business development team and I said, we're only going to survive because we've made friends with our business partners. We know them. They will answer the phone because they know when we call them, we're calling about serious business. We're not calling to ask them, what do you have? So that was one thing that worked in our favor. We still were able to close about 60% of what we had in our pipeline to be closed before the end of the last fiscal year. We're in October, so we're in a new fiscal year. It also gave us the opportunity to sort of walk the halls virtually and find last minute dollars at the federal level, at some state and local levels. But the way we were able to take advantage of those opportunities was because our business development is based on relationships. And we knew the people, we knew what they were buying, we knew what their challenges were, and we knew that they wanted a company that could provide not only people to do things, but innovation that helped them to do other things that they wanted to focus on. So we were able to do relatively okay. We probably met about 70% of our goal. So, you know, it was okay, all things considered. I've been around long enough where I ran a business when MCI went bankrupt, and we thought that that was the end of the world, and we made it through that. But this came along, and this really could have been, really is sort of the end of the world. But it looks like we'll all make it out of it. So what did we learn? We learned that relationships count. We learned that at the small business level, and we're a small business, at the small business level, a lot of the OSDBUs at the federal level, which is the Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization, those folks focus on helping small businesses find opportunities. We learned that that relationship changed a little under COVID because, as I said, they're focused on a lot of other efforts to help small businesses at the federal level participate in a lot of programs that will save small businesses, not necessarily grow small businesses. But we remain focused on the solicitations that we were tracking, and we knew that those folks were tied up. So we didn't deal a lot with the Eyes of the New folks because we knew they were tied up. We pushed into the program folks, and we won a few deals. In District of Columbia, for example, we focused hard on the program folks. We focused hard on what we knew the impact of COVID would be for the district, and we won the contact tracing contract for the District of Columbia. And that had not been something that was on our radar, obviously. But because of the situation we were in, we had to be innovative and think a few steps ahead of our closest clients and put together solutions that we knew they would be interested in buying. We also had to be smart with our pricing because during this period, I've seen that the competition on pricing is very interesting. We've got a lot of deals out there where you've got competition that really wants to drive the price to the bottom and buy the deal just to survive. And I understand, I respect that. That's not the business that we do, but we've seen that. So in wrapping this up, I would say that the best lesson I learned from COVID is innovation. We're never going back to where we used to be. We've got to innovate forward. And it was because we had good relationships. That is what brought us through.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Linwood. That was very great insight. So, Luke, what did COVID-19 teach you about your business?
Well, most of the lessons it taught me really, really good. So just to preview again what Gelberg Signs is. Gelberg Signs is actually a sign manufacturing facility. We've been in Washington, D.C. since 1941. We make any type of sign, from any type of interior sign, exterior sign, graphics, pretty much anything you can imagine. If it has words on it or copy on it or pictures on it, we make it. We have a 50,000 square foot facility all in Washington, D.C., and we employ about 100 people. You know, and our typical type jobs are office buildings and hospitals and retailers and large development projects like the wharf in DC, which we did a total design build for everything there. So when COVID hit, boy, what happens, right? Our retail business, which is new store openings, that fell off. That just totally fell off, and the phones were quiet. 25% of our business is probably the retailer. We do, you know, from any type of individual store to chain stores, and of course, nobody was opening up stores. So the good thing was we were deemed essential. And why is that? Is because we work on projects like Metro, Amtrak, airports, hospitals. So we've got letters from the government and from general contractors saying you cannot close. We have projects that are moving on under you and you've got to stay open. And so that was a good thing. So we were able to think about how do we stay in business, because we did lose a substantial amount of business due to COVID. And so we had to go back to our roots. And what our roots are is something we follow all the time. And we call it, and I didn't invent it, and I took the idea from somebody, but it's the double bottom line theory of business. And what the double bottom line theory is, everybody knows what the original bottom line is it's how much money you're making. But the other side of it is, and I believe this truly, if you do good things in the community and are out there, and not so much anymore can you out there being seen, but out there virtually and doing good things, it'll come back to your bottom line. So here's what we did. When all the uproar happened in DC and the riots and things during the murders, we got involved with the African American Museum, by the way, which we did every sign in the African American Museum. But we got involved with them. They had a Black Dads Father's Day program for Father's Day of this year in June 21st, and we donated 5,000 signs free, no charge, to that event. And it got us a lot of publicity, but it was a good thing, and we felt that it was the right thing to do. We also did a free distancing sign program for businesses that were also deemed essential. They could not close. So they could have spacing markers on their floors, signs in their windows saying they were open. And we did it totally, totally free. And then what we did was we said, what, this COVID, with these free COVID steps, maybe there's actually money to be made there. So he gave us the idea of, why don't we develop a catalog? So we developed a COVID catalog, and it's been on fire. And it's pretty much replaced pretty close to all the retail business we lost. So we're trying to get think of different ways to replace our lost business, and it's what's happened. We've done good things, and these good things, people are coming to our shop now and say, hey, you gave me this, now I need more signs, and I want to pay for them, and I appreciate the goodwill you guys offered. So it was really good, a feel-good thing that we did something good for the community, and in turn, they paid us back. And we actually did a program with the mayor's office for Black-owned businesses signage. So it was actually a program that Gelberg Sign started, and we bounced it off the mayor's office, and they loved it so much, they decided to do it. And so we put signs in all the Black-owned businesses in DC. And that sort of pays off, gets you a lot of brand awareness, and, it's what it's all about. And especially in DC, we're a very small community, and everybody knows everybody. So that's what we did. And there's other things that kind of sidelight things, the COVID is such a dark cloud, but there's always a silver lining. And that's my belief. Now, our commute around town is, our savings on gas for our installation vehicles are spending half as much on gas. Our employees get in on time. We've given the ability for the engineering and the project management team and estimators, everybody's working from home, and they're not having all that waste of drive time. So that's been a good thing. Another good thing, and it's all good really, except for a lack of seeing my friends and all the business acquaintances that I've had, is I call somebody and they're always picking up their phone. Everybody's working from home pretty much. And so they're dying to talk to you, and you can talk about programs and things. And lastly is we do a large amount of our business with big development projects around the country and in DC. And that money has not been cut off. We're actually approaching our backlog of 2022, and things are on pretty much a positive note. The banks are still funding these projects. Retail is slowly coming back. In fact, this past week, we've done a couple good new retailers. So I guess my biggest lesson learned is, don't stick your head in the sand, because there's always business out there. And in the signage business, people need signs of any type. So we didn't do that, and we kept our head up tight. We hired marketing people, and overall, we're not behind last year. And then for the first couple months that it was really tough, we took advantage of the PPP program. Our financials were straight. We qualified for that, and it really was a savior. And that's where I stand. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, Luke. That was great, especially the feedback around, not putting your head in the sand and just kind of look for opportunities. So what I want to do is open it up for Q&A. So we have a few questions. This one's for you, Lori, if you're up. Is Lori up?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, great. So the question I have, if I can find the question because I just had it. So can you tell us more about, I know that you have initiated a few things since since COVID. Can you tell us a little bit about your, I know you have a summit coming up as well, the 2029 Emerging. So was that something that was born out of COVID, and it was a virtual summit? Were you doing some of those things before?
Yes, well, actually, it's good to bring that up. Not that we were planning a face-to-face conference. You're right. So we had to cancel that. And this is something, I'm a serial entrepreneur as well. And so I wrote a book, and the book turned into, Lori, this needs to become a conference. It's not a girl power, woman empowerment type of thing, but it really is about, focusing on, being a woman and being able to stay in the game. The challenges are always there on another level for us in general, but fighting to maintain and keep going and growing is really what the book is about. And what are you thinking about? What's your thoughts every day to yourself? And so, yes, we had to put a virtual conference on instead of doing a live one face-to-face. And that came about because 3 doctors, PhDs, inquired. They said, why would you just totally cancel? Why don't you do virtual? I said, you know what? I hadn't thought about that. So we made the change, and the virtual conference is actually Saturday on the 10th from 11 to 3. And I am quite excited about it because we have a lot of wonderful, powerful women that have great stories to tell to encourage us to keep doing what we do in order to be successful. And thank you for that question.
So a follow-up to that is, you mentioned the importance of networking, especially with everybody being on Zoom. You know, how do you network with others in, like, you know, in the Zoom environment, and how do you reach out?
One of the things that I implemented is monthly sessions where I have brought in some facilitators. Like, we have done a session on civility in the workplace. We've done a session on communication. We've done a session on diversity and inclusion, where we're actually allowing our team, the employees of Civility Management Solutions, to have some time to get to know each other, even though they're working from home in different parts of the country. And at the same time, they get a chance to lean in and get some attention from the company that they actually work for, and know that we care about how they're doing, how they're surviving during this COVID-19 when everybody's kind of shut off and shut in. That was definitely one thing that we've added that has been a huge value. I've gotten nothing but great comments back from the employees to say, thank you really for caring.
Thank you. So I have a question for you, Shaun. Based on some of the things that you implemented due to COVID, do you see these as long-term changes that will last, or do you think that it's just for the moment?
So it's probably a little twofold. There are some elements that are probably short term. I don't anticipate the business way. So with our dorm room boxes program, I don't anticipate the need for us to go in and actually pack up dorm rooms for students. I think we'll probably go back to our traditional model, which is just shipping boxes to students, allowing them to pack their dorm room, and then for us to pick up and then store all summer. But we did establish new relationships with new campuses. And the fact that we made those investments in the technology platform that allows us to really facilitate that kind of remotely and autonomously, and allow students kind of just book online. We made some really great enhancements to that. So I think those elements are going to allow us to kind of stay competitive in the marketplace. So I think that's one of the great benefits there. And then on the franchise side, as I said, we're really revamping our program and revamping how we're going to go about marketing our offering to potential franchisees. What it really helped me recognize is that I was able to run the business, and my franchisees were able to still run their businesses remotely. And that was really my goal kind of when I designed the franchise system. So it's really just overall just reinforced some of those elements of that business. And now I'm looking at, how can we get more people? I think there's been a great discussion and awareness about kind of just the inclusion elements that's kind of going on across the country. And when I look at the franchise ownership of African Americans compared to other groups across the country, African Americans own less than 1% of all franchises, less than 1% of all franchises in the country. So I look at my business as a way, this is a recession-resistant business that has a relatively low barrier to entry that can be that can really have a low cost to enter as well. And now with some of these, with some of the added technology elements that we've kind of implemented, it's something that can really be ran autonomously and remotely. So we're designing systems now that can allow someone to keep their 9-to-5 job while starting their franchise and kind of growing it organically over time. And as they hit certain milestones, we have certain partners established who will allow them to go ahead and go from truck rental to truck leasing, from truck leasing to truck ownership, just by hitting certain metrics within our system. So those are the elements that are going to probably continue to grow and that we are recognizing that there's further opportunity and further opportunity for growth and improvement within the business model.
Thank you, Shaun. So two quick questions, one for Linwood, one for Luke, and we want to be cognizant of time. So Linwood, you talked about the importance of relationships. When establishing relationships through networking, what are some strategies one should consider?
I always like to find out exactly what that person's responsible for. What are they buying? What are their challenges? What have they liked in the past from small businesses that they've dealt with, and what have the problems been? And then I need to immediately find out how to overcome that and make that person a client.
Okay. So, Luke, I know that you adopted your business kind of in the moment. When COVID is over, would there be any kind of products or services that were staples in your business that you think that you will no longer be providing?
Oh, I'm sure when COVID is over, the distancing decals will dissipate. But one thing that we really got motivated with was is networking through Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that. And we actually hired somebody or in-house. And that marketing ploy, learned from you, Madia, is just get out there. We're actually trying to develop. We're posting every time we have a nice sign. We post it on Instagram, and we're going to label it signs. Signs are sexy, and we're going to try to have a little program around that. Just try to do things that are new that we weren't doing before. So,
great.